It's been a year since I replaced the Aberdeen screens in Echo Yankee Zulu with an all-new Garmin system, but has it been worth it? Yes, it has. Okay, thanks for watching. See you in the next... Of course, replacing 15-year-old systems with the latest in technology is obviously going to be better. It's obviously an improvement, but I wanted to share with you the features of the Garmin ecosystem that I've used the most. So if you are a pilot as well, or if you're just interested in the world of aviation, you can see what improvements this has made to my flying overall, how it's made my life as a pilot easier, and how it could possibly help you too if you're maybe thinking of doing a similar thing. I'm also making this video because it's absolutely chucking it down outside and I did want to go flying, but I don't think that's going to happen. So here's a really informal, quick tour of the cockpit and the features that I use the most. It's literally, it's just us. It's just you, me, and of course, old Buddy's here. Before we get started, one thing I do want to let you know is I'm what Garmin call a Garmin Ambassador. Now what that means is we get to work together on some projects, and some of the avionics in Echo Yankee Zulu, not all of it, has been provided to me either at a reduced cost or free of charge. Now Garmin are not sponsoring this video, they don't even know I'm making it to be honest, but I just get a lot of questions about the avionics and I thought it was time for an updated video on some of the features that I like the most and how I use the equipment to fly the aircraft and make videos for this channel. I just always think it's better to be honest about these things. Alright, let's start at the start. One of the things that I do before every flight is make sure the databases are updated. First up then is the connectivity. So you see here, this is a list of databases that I have in the system, and the yellow ones are the ones that are expired because I haven't updated these for a little while. Here on my iPad, you can control all of the database updates to the aircraft basically by downloading them at home on your iPad first, sending them through, you can see here they're waiting to go, sending them through to the GTN 650s, which then download them to both GTN 650s and push up to the G500 TXIs as well. Now I'm not going to lie to you, sometimes you can have syncing issues, especially you have databases which go out of date and you miss a couple of iterations and then try and upload. Sometimes it can be a little bit fiddly to get the databases through, but when it does work, man, it's a time saver. I've actually updated databases between starting up the aircraft and taxiing out to the run-up bay in the past, and just knowing that you can do that really is a time saver when you're flying. This next feature, probably the one that's changed my flying the most, I would say, and that's putting in a vertical nav profile, or basically setting a top of descent. It's also impossible to show you when the aircraft is on the ground. However, I did use this feature recently and recorded myself doing it as I was flying through the outback. I get the elevation of 959 feet here, so I know that my circuit height for Broken Hill is going to be 1,000 feet above that, so 1,900, or I'd kind of say 2,000 feet. So what I can do in my flight plan, because I know I need to descend down to 2,000 feet, is I go to Broken Hill, I click here, I click altitude constraint, and I put in 2,000 feet at the waypoint. If I save that, then I actually now on here get a top of descent point of 42 minutes from where I am now, and on my moving map you can see that's where I am. That's Broken Hill just at the top of the map, and I have my top of descent marked here. The other good thing is there's an audible annunciator that says vertical track in an American accent, and that tells me I've got 1 minute before I need to start down my vertical track, and that's it, and then I'm all set up for Broken Hill. And it then just gives me options, so then if I still wanted to do a straight in approach, I could increase the descent profile a little bit, come down a bit more steeply and basically fly straight in. I know how many of you enjoy me doing straight in approaches when you've seen me do those in the past. It's just a really good sanity to check alongside the mental arithmetic you should be doing as a pilot to work out when you should be descending anyway. Just to have that backup from the avionics has helped me so many times in the past. When I'm flying an instrument approach and I've briefed myself on the chart, one of the things I love to be able to do now on the G500s is I can actually input minimums. For example, say we're flying into Kingscote, this is on Kangaroo Island here in Australia, and I've got a minimum of 340 feet. Once I've briefed myself on the approach, I can basically just come down here to the minimums, type in 340, and that gives me two really useful things in flight. First of all, the minimums will actually appear. I'm on the ground now, so you can't see it, but when I'm flying and I have a destination, it will show me the minimums just here underneath the altitude tape. But also when I'm flying the approach and I do come down to minimums, I get an audible minimums call out. Minimums, there we go. Which I think is just another great safety feature. You can see how I've set up the primary flight display here with basically all of my aircraft information on the left hand side, and then I've got this split screen option here. On the multifunction display on the right hand side, I can even go one step further, and I've got my engine tape down here on the left hand side, but this main area I can split twice again. So I can actually have engine information. I might want to have my map on this side, and then for example I could have some more detailed engine information here. Or if I don't want all that engine information, if that's enough, maybe I can pull up traffic on the right hand side here. If you're interested, my common setup that I've had now after using this for a year is I have the first PFD set up with my map and my primary aircraft information here on the left hand side. Then over here I do have my engine information. I don't need another version of the map here, so I actually put a more detailed engine page on here just so I can monitor things like cylinder head temperatures and exhaust gas temperatures very easily using these two panels. And over on the right hand side I actually pull up my flight plan so I can see things like times to the next waypoints, just in case air traffic control asks me any questions. Now if you don't want that much information across the screens, the other thing you can do with your primary flight display is just hit the full button and just get your aircraft information here, and then you might want to have, for example, your map on this side and maybe something else on the other side. Bottom line is it's really customizable, and I love the fact that you can do that. And the other nice thing is you can save your preferences to your pilot settings as well, so you can have a pilot profile which remembers your favorite layout and configurations. So if anyone else is using the aircraft, and Echo Yankee Zulu does get hired out sometimes, they can load their own settings, but when I come back in I can choose my own profile and I know that everything is laid out the way that I want. As you would have seen so far in this video as well, another feature, oh my god, this makes such a difference, is this is all touchscreen. If you bring up a menu, for example, but you don't want that menu, yes, there's a close button, but you can also just tap somewhere else on the screen and it goes, just like you would with your iPad. And like talking about things like iPads, when you've got a map, you can scroll it, you can move it around with your hand, you can zoom in and out by pinching. You can then also tap on things and get information about waypoints, for example. If you zoom into an airport, like let's go to Moorabbin, and then tap on Moorabbin, then you can get more information. So I've got like a little preview of the runways, a bit more detail on the runways, the frequencies that I might want to be able to use. I've never actually used this. What's this? Oh, you can see the web address and other information. Oh, I've never looked at this. And if you have the flight charts package as well, then you can see actual things like airport diagrams, instrument approach charts, and because we're not flying at the moment you can't see it, but it will overlay your position on this diagram as well. So if you do get a difficult taxi instruction, for example, like often at Moorabbin when we're landing here on runway 31 and 13, you can quite often come off here and then you'll get on taxiway Bravo, cross 35 left, 35 right, 22. Reading it back is a lot easier when you can actually see the chart in front of you. And the touchscreen's very intuitive. Obviously big flashing buttons, you know that you can just touch on them. You're not having to navigate using the knobs and dials, but the thing is you also can navigate using the knobs and the dials. So with my heading, for example, if I get a heading change from ATC, I can just type that in. But equally, if I don't want to do that, if I just come out of here and I get a heading change, because the heading is highlighted, I can just twist the knob in the same way. Now, I do use this a fair amount, especially when it's a little bit bumpy. If you haven't seen it close up before, the dial here on the G500, there's a smaller knob here and a larger knob on the outside. The outside knob basically is your highlight tool. So it will give you, for example, you start at heading, then you go to altitude, then you can highlight vertical speed, then you can highlight your airspeed, or indicated airspeed that it's going to hold. And then I think the final one is, course as well. Oh, of course you can do QNH. So basically cycles through each of those. And then if you change the knob on the outside, then that changes whichever item is basically highlighted. And then like the other Garmin systems out there too, if you push the knob, it will basically set it to whatever the aircraft is currently doing. So in our case, got a heading of 296 and that just set the heading to 296. When I've got a flight plan loaded on my iPad, just a simple one here, for example, going from Melbourne up to Sydney, being able to send it through to the avionics basically in 2 taps there on the iPad, and then with just a couple of taps down here on the GTN 650, I can see that flight plan and make sure it's okay. And if I activate it and then go up here to the map on the G500, it's seamlessly loaded. Now the other cool thing is that works in reverse as well. So if, for example, I'm going to add a waypoint before I get to Bankstown, maybe we're going to go via Canberra this time, that's now activated here on the map automatically because that's pushed through from the 650s through to the G500. But the nice thing is I don't have to manually update my flight plan here on the iPad, because if I just simply hit activate, it's automatically added that waypoint here. So it syncs from the iPad to the 650s to the G500s, but also from the 650s back to the iPad again. So the likelihood of having a flight plan which the aircraft is flying, which is different to what you're looking at here, so what you're expecting to see ahead of you being different to what the airplane is doing, very, very small likelihood of that happening. Seeing the avionics on the ground is one thing, but if you want to see them in action up in the air, have a look at this video where I took Echo Yankee Zulu up into the mountains and, well, let's just say things just kept changing.